My boyfriend, 29-year-old male, and I, 28-year-old female, have been together now on and off for just over 2 years. We have not lived together during this time and have been living with roommates. Our relationship has been, to say the least, up and down. My opinion is that this has mostly been down to his behavior. His moods have, in the past, been really unpredictable, and at times he could be really nasty to me. He used to break up with me for about a day at least once a month when I did something he didn't like. That is said, I thought he might be experiencing anxiety, didn't drive him home when he asked because I had an early start the next day when I spent the weekend away, occasionally visiting friends. He would get really angry with me over small things, talk down to me, and generally treat me really badly. I broke up with him for 6 months over all of the above about 10 months ago. When I broke up with him, he told me he is addicted to drugs, which I had no idea about. I knew he did drugs occasionally recreationally with friends, but turns out it was 4 times a week. I have never done drugs and didn't know the warning signs. We started talking again about 4 months ago, and he said he was off drugs now and that this was the cause of his behavior, and he finally took some accountability. I decided to give our relationship another chance at this point. Over the last 4 months, however, I could see he was still using. He denied, minimized this. His behavior was becoming moody and erratic again. He was sleeping all hours of the day and going out for 48 hours at a time. He was getting mad at me again for little things and completely lost it when I mentioned his drug use. His apartment was a complete mess. Trash piled up, dirt everywhere, sheets never cleaned, all round inhabitable. I cleaned his apartment for him a couple of times just to help him out. It's been so hard to watch him spiral so much, and I tried everything I could to help him. Begged him to get professional help. He wouldn't and still won't. A month ago, he nearly overdosed, which he said scared the shoot out of him. He finally told his mom about his drug use. I was the only one that knew, and admitted to me how bad it got again. He's managed to stay off them since then, and seems to be doing a lot better. He's being more calm, happy, basically being a functional human being. This is great, but I know with addiction, it isn't that simple, and there is a high chance of relapse at this point, especially since he's still refusing professional help and says he can do this on his own. During our breakup, I'd agreed to move in with my sister once my previous tenancy ended with my roommate. My sister and I are currently still looking for an apartment, both living with our parents while we look, and are planning to sign a 12-month lease once we find a place. However, now he's really mad that I'm still going ahead with this plan to move in with my sister and not with him. I had never agreed to move in with him. He says he is struggling with finances and needs me to contribute towards his bills and rent. I have said that I won't bail on the commitment I made to my sister, and after the year, we can live together. He said I always put everyone else above him, and I should pull out of the agreement. I was honest with him and said aside from the above, I don't feel comfortable living with him until he's been stable for a fair while. I don't want my home to be a possible source of chaos and stress. And while he's doing good now, it's only been a month. He is really angry about this. He says I'm not supporting him and don't believe he will stay clean. And what's the point of us being together if we don't live together? He said that it's ridiculous I want to live with my sister over my boyfriend, and any normal girlfriend would never choose that. He said that it's taking too long for me and my sister to find an apartment, and this just puts off us living together. I get we have been together 2 years on and off, but the whole time has been such a roller coaster. I just don't feel comfortable living with him until he has shown consistency. I feel like a year living separately while he works on his issues would be good for us. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Is he right? Am I being unreasonable, unfair? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Get out of this toxic relationship. He is not just an addict. He is hurtful, not from the drugs. He only cares about his wants and needs. He is not concerned with what you want or need. In his mind, the world revolves around him. Not only should you not move in with him, you should break up and live the life that you deserve. You are not responsible for your boyfriend's addiction/recovery, mental health, or bills. He is an adult who is responsible for himself. Understand that he will never change. You cannot fix him. If you stay with him, your life will be like this forever. Is that really what you want? Comment 2. What is unreasonable is that the breakup didn't stick. He doesn't want to build a home that is safe and secure for you. That is not at all what he is planning. He wants you to pay half the bills while he continues to behave more or less the same as he ever will. He will have even more power to manipulate and terrify you when you live together. And he is trying to make you responsible for his sobriety, which means he is not going to stay sober. He is going to relapse, and he is going to blame everyone but himself when he does. You first. This is a waste of your time. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for checking in. So, a lot has happened in the past month. After my last update, things took a turn I didn't quite expect. My boyfriend and I had a huge argument about the whole living situation. He was really pushing for us to move in together, and I stood my ground about moving in with my sister. It got pretty heated, and he ended up storming out. I didn't hear from him for a couple of days, which was really stressful. I was worried he might have relapsed or done something drastic. When he finally got back in touch, he apologized for his outburst, but still insisted that we should live together. He said he felt abandoned and unsupported, which made me feel guilty, but I knew I had to stick to my decision. I reiterated that I needed to see more stability from him before I could consider living together. He seemed to understand, but I could tell he was still upset. A week later, something unexpected happened. My sister and I found a great apartment, and were ready to sign the lease. I was excited, but also nervous about telling my boyfriend. When I finally did, he didn't take it well. He accused me of not caring about him and said that if I really loved him, I would have chosen to live with him. This led to another big fight, and he ended up leaving again. During this time, I started to notice some changes in myself. I was constantly anxious and on edge, always waiting for the next argument or outburst. I realized that I was walking on eggshells around him, trying to avoid anything that might set him off. It was exhausting, and I started to question if this relationship was worth all the stress. Then, something happened that brought a lot of hidden feelings to the surface. My boyfriend's mom reached out to me. She wanted to thank me for supporting her son and helping him through his addiction. We ended up having a long conversation, and she shared some things about his past that I didn't know. She told me about his struggles with addiction from a young age and how it had affected his relationships with family and friends. She also mentioned that he had a history of pushing people away when they got too close, which explained a lot about his behavior with me. This conversation was eye-opening. It made me realize that his issues were much deeper than I had thought, and that he had a lot of unresolved trauma. It also made me see that I couldn't fix him, no matter how much I wanted to. He needed professional help, and until he was willing to get it, things were unlikely to change. A few days later, my boyfriend and I had another talk. I told him about my conversation with his mom and how it had made me see things differently. I explained that I loved him and wanted to support him, but I couldn't keep sacrificing my own well-being in the process. I told him that I needed to take care of myself too, and that living with my sister was the best decision for me right now. He didn't take it well at first. He accused me of giving up on him and said that I was just like everyone else who had abandoned him. It was heartbreaking to hear, but I knew I had to stand my ground. I told him that I wasn't abandoning him, but I needed to set boundaries for my own mental health. After that conversation, things were tense between us. We didn't talk much, and when we did, it was mostly surface-level stuff. I could tell he was still angry and hurt, but I hoped that he would eventually understand where I was coming from. Then, about a week ago, something surprising happened. My boyfriend called me and said he had decided to start going to therapy. He said that our conversations had made him realize that he needed to deal with his issues and that he couldn't do it alone. I was relieved and hopeful that this could be a turning point for him. Since then, he's been to a couple of therapy sessions, and he seems to be doing better. He's more calm and less reactive, and we've had some good conversations about our relationship and what we both need moving forward. It's still early days, but I'm cautiously optimistic. As for me, I'm feeling a bit more at peace. Moving in with my sister has been a good decision, and it's given me some much-needed space to focus on myself. I'm still supporting my boyfriend, but I'm also making sure to take care of my own mental health. Looking back, I realized that I'd been ignoring a lot of red flags and putting his needs above my own. This past month has been a wake-up call, and I'm learning to set boundaries and prioritize my own well-being. It's not easy, but I know it's necessary for both of us. Thanks for reading. Aita for letting my stubborn mill move in and ruin our lives. My mother-in-law, who is 54 years old, has multiple chronic conditions which leave her unable to work. She receives disability and other benefits from the government that allow her to live a simple life with her cat in a one-bedroom apartment. My husband, who is also 30, goes there at least once a week to help her with things, such as carrying her garbage to the dumper outside and bringing in groceries from her car, anything that involves lifting heavy things. A few months ago, she started getting extreme pain in her hip and one leg that made it difficult for her to walk far distances. He started going over there more frequently. Doctors discovered that the pain was caused by a slipped disc in her spine that can only be fixed with back surgery. It's an intense surgery, and she is not healthy enough to undergo it. She smokes, she doesn't exercise, and she has heart problems on top of that. We've been arguing with her to at least try and get healthier so she can have the surgery. The leg pain is so bad, she is moaning and crying and can't do anything. Her quality of life is now 0, but still no motivation to do anything about it. Then she fell in her apartment and broke her leg so badly, it required emergency surgery and a large rod from her knee to her ankle, not able to bear any weight for who knows how long. So she moved in with us. We had rules, no cigarettes at our house. She can't smoke inside or outside or ever. She would be focused on getting better while she lived here. That lasted literally a day. She had a friend sneak some to her. We found and hid them. She whined about it, telling us we are treating her like a child and a prisoner, that the pain is so bad and the cigarettes are the only thing that helps. Note she is prescribed pain meds and smokes pot, which we are okay with. We would kick her out, but she has nowhere else to go. It seems she just wants to rot and be taken care of until she dies. She's only 54. Do we let her do just that? She's an adult after all. Then when she can put weight on her leg again, we'd move her back to her apartment. But it feels like it's only a matter of time before another accident happens, and we have to come to the rescue. How can we get her to see she is slowly ending the life of herself and sucking the life out of her son, who is primarily taking care of her and doing an amazing job? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I would ask social services or case management at her doctor's office for assistance in finding a board and care facility for her. I believe they accept disability. She needs a kick in the rear end, and maybe living in a quasi-nursing home will help her realize she needs to start being accountable for her own health. Comment 2. She will likely live into her 70s. The next thing the doctors will do is put her in an electric wheelchair. After that, she won't walk again. The alternative is to force her to quit smoking and undergo physical therapy every day, which will be incredibly painful for a long time. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since the last post. So, after the whole cigarette incident, things got even more complicated. My mother-in-law's health continued to decline, and her attitude didn't improve. She was constantly complaining about the pain and how we were treating her. My husband was getting more and more stressed out, trying to balance taking care of her, working, and maintaining our household. It was taking a toll on our relationship too. We were arguing more, and I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. One night, things took a turn for the worse. My mother-in-law had another fall in our living room. She was trying to get to the bathroom without her walker, and she slipped. This time, she didn't break any bones, but she was in a lot of pain and couldn't get up. We had to call an ambulance, and she was taken to the hospital. The doctor said she had severely bruised her hip and would need to stay in the hospital for a few days for observation. While she was in the hospital, my husband and I had a serious conversation about what to do next. We couldn't keep living like this. It wasn't fair to us, and it wasn't helping her either. We decided that we needed to find a more permanent solution. We started looking into nursing homes and assisted living facilities. It was a tough decision, but we knew it was the right one. When my mother-in-law was discharged from the hospital, we sat her down and explained our decision. She was furious. She accused us of abandoning her and said she would rather die than go to a nursing home. My husband tried to explain that it was for her own good, but she wouldn't listen. She was crying and yelling, and it broke my heart to see my husband so torn. Despite her protests, we went ahead with the plan. We found a facility that had good reviews and seemed like a good fit for her needs. The day we moved her in was one of the hardest days of our lives. She wouldn't speak to us, and the look of betrayal in her eyes was almost too much to bear. But we knew we had to do it. The first few days after moving her in were rough. She refused to participate in any of the activities and wouldn't eat. The staff called us several times saying she was being uncooperative. My husband visited her every day, trying to convince her to give it a chance, but she was stubborn. She kept saying she wanted to go back to her apartment, even though we knew she couldn't live on her own anymore. Then, about a week after she moved in, we got a call from the nursing home. My mother-in-law had been found unconscious in her room. They rushed her to the hospital, and it turned out she had overdosed on her pain medication. The doctors managed to save her, but it was a close call. My husband was devastated. He blamed himself for not being there for her and for pushing her into the nursing home. After she was stabilized, we had another difficult conversation. My mother-in-law admitted that she had taken the extra pills on purpose. She said she couldn't stand living in the nursing home and felt like we had abandoned her. My husband was in tears, and I didn't know what to say. We were at a loss. We decided to bring her back to our house, at least until we could figure out what to do next. But things didn't get any easier. She was more depressed than ever, and her health continued to decline. She still refused to quit smoking, and her pain was getting worse. My husband was doing everything he could to take care of her, but it was never enough. One night, after another argument about her smoking, my husband broke down. He admitted that he felt like he was failing her, and that he didn't know how much longer he could keep doing this. It was heartbreaking to see him like that. I tried to comfort him, but I knew there was only so much I could do. We started looking into other options, like in-home care services, but they were expensive, and we couldn't afford them long-term. We were stuck in a difficult situation with no easy answers. My mother-in-law's health continued to decline, and we were running out of options. In the midst of all this, I started to think about my own family. My father had passed away when I was young, and my mother had struggled with her health for years. I remembered how hard it was to watch her suffer and how helpless I felt. It made me realize that my husband was going through something similar, and it broke my heart. I also thought about my mother-in-law's past. She had always been a strong, independent woman, but her health issues had taken that away from her. She was scared and angry, and I could understand why. But it didn't make it any easier to deal with. As the days went by, we continued to struggle. My husband was doing his best to take care of his mother, but it was taking a toll on him. I was trying to support him, but I was also feeling the strain. We were both exhausted and at our wits' end. Then, one day, my mother-in-law had another fall. This time, she broke her hip. She was rushed to the hospital, and the doctor said she would need surgery. But given her health, the surgery was risky. My husband was faced with a difficult decision. He could either go ahead with the surgery, knowing the risks, or let her continue to suffer. After a long and emotional discussion, my husband decided to go ahead with the surgery. It was a tough choice, but he couldn't bear to see his mother in pain any longer. The surgery was scheduled for the next day, and we were both on edge. The surgery didn't go as planned. My mother-in-law had complications, and she didn't make it through. My husband was devastated. He blamed himself for making the wrong decision and for not being able to save her. It was a dark time for both of us. In the end, we were left with a lot of pain and unanswered questions. We had tried our best to take care of my mother-in-law, but it hadn't been enough. My husband was struggling with guilt and grief, and I was trying to support him while dealing with my own emotions. Thank you for reading. Aita for ignoring my gut and giving my cheating boyfriend another chance. I'm going to explain everything because I can't keep running it through my mind, and I don't know what to do. My boyfriend, 24 years old male, and I, 21 years old female, have been together for 1.5 years. Half of it being unofficial, but exclusive, or so I thought. After finding out he was spending time and being intimacy with someone else while being with me, I ended it, but he fought it and wanted us to be in a real relationship. I know it's really dumb, but I was in love. I decided to give it a try because I wanted a relationship with him. 2 months later, he moved very far for school. We decided to try the long distance with me visiting as I work and go to school online, so it was easier. The flights were extremely long and it took effort, but I loved him and wanted to make it work, so I didn't mind it. During one of my trips there, I looked through his messages with his best friend and found him saying disgusting things about wanting to be with other women and going to the club and dancing with other women, which he denied and said he was exaggerating. I don't know why, but I let it go. I made the excuse that we were long distance and temptations are normal, and I believed he didn't act on them. But something just happened when I saw those messages. I felt myself become emotionally numb with him. This was in March, and I have been trying to ignore that feeling and just try to make it work. Now in May, he came back for the summer. We got into a fight about me posting a picture. No butt or breasts were showing. But he wants me to ask for approval before I post any picture, and I refuse to. After this fight, we got pretty close to breaking up, which I was hoping deep inside of me would happen. I didn't see him for 2 weeks after the fight, and kept communication very minimal. Without effort, I just felt I was done with it. Now this week we saw each other and talked a lot, and he is telling me all this talk about how he loves me. And these past 2 weeks made him realize how much I do for him, how much I mean to him, and he can't lose me. And making plans for the summer and future, but I just don't feel the same way I did when I met him. When I'm with him, I have so much fun, and I can be myself, and I feel like everything is fine. But when we're apart, I don't feel anything towards him. I dread having to see him again because I know I'll just fall for it, because I have love for him still. I find myself making excuses to not see him, but when I'm with him, I feel fine. I don't know if I am just scared and lost trust or have attachment issues, and I keep thinking I should try to make the relationship work because he seems more serious than he's ever been. But I also feel like my gut has been telling me something I keep ignoring. It's both our first relationships, and I feel like I have wanted this relationship with him for so long that now that I have it, breaking up would be throwing my dream away. And I worry of the hurt I will cause him after getting him to be in a relationship when he didn't want one. But I feel numb, and a mixture of emotions back and forth, and I need some adult advice. What should I do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You need to leave him. He's a walking red flag. He's manipulating you to get what he wants. He will get angry with you, gaslight you, and then blame you. Then turn around and talk about how sorry he is and how things will change, but it never will. After my 29 years on this earth, I've dated men like him. It's just going to end with you getting in way too deep and you may not get a chance to leave. Men who try to control and manipulate you like he's doing are not good people and do not love you. Read your post as if it was your friend telling you this story. Would you want her to be with someone like him? Comment 2. You can literally just ghost this guy and block him everywhere. Put all the struggles with those mixed emotions into conversations with yourself, not with him. Figure out why you might have abandoned yourself by putting up with disloyalty and gaslighting. Do not put it into conversations with him about why he was disloyal or non-committal. You are the only important person here because you have to follow yourself around the rest of your life. So, stop living in confusion land with this dude and start getting to know yourself so you can stay out of this BS in the future. You'll thank yourself. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, after that last update, things took a turn I didn't expect. A month has passed and it's been very eventful. Right after our talk, he seemed genuinely committed to making things work. He started planning more dates, being more attentive, and even talking about future plans like moving in together after he finishes school. At first, I thought maybe this was the change I needed to see, but deep down, I still felt that numbness. One evening, we were out for dinner, and he brought up the idea of me transferring my online classes to a school closer to him. He said it would make things easier for us and that he wanted to be with me more. It sounded sweet, but it also felt like he was trying to control my life more. I told him I needed time to think about it, and he seemed okay with that. A week later, I found out something that shook me. I was scrolling through social media and saw a picture of him at a party with a girl I didn't recognize. They looked pretty close, and it made me uneasy. I confronted him about it, and he said she was just a friend from his class. He insisted nothing happened, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't being entirely honest. Around the same time, I started having these vivid dreams about him cheating on me. They felt so real that I would wake up in a panic. I didn't tell him about the dreams because I didn't want to seem paranoid, but they were affecting my sleep and my mood. I started feeling more distant from him, even when we were together. Then, something unexpected happened. I got a message from a girl who claimed to be his ex. She said she wanted to warn me about his behavior and that he had a history of cheating and lying. At first, I didn't want to believe her, but she sent me screenshots of their conversations from when they were together. It was clear that he had been unfaithful to her multiple times. This was the twist I didn't see coming. I confronted him with the screenshots, and he got defensive. He said she was just trying to cause trouble and that he had changed. But I couldn't ignore the evidence. It felt like everything was falling apart. I realized that I had been ignoring my gut feelings for too long. The fallout from this revelation was intense. We had a huge fight, and I told him I needed space to think. He kept trying to call and text me, but I didn't respond. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of emotions. I didn't know who to trust or what to believe anymore. During this time, I started reflecting on our relationship and my own history. I remembered how my parents had a tumultuous relationship when I was growing up. My dad was always controlling, and my mom was always trying to please him. I realized that I had been repeating the same patterns in my own relationship. I was always trying to make him happy, even at the cost of my own happiness. I also thought about my first crush in high school. He was charming and made me feel special, but he ended up cheating on me with my best friend. That experience left me with trust issues that I never fully addressed. I realized that I'd been carrying that baggage into my relationship with my boyfriend. As I processed all of this, I started to see things more clearly. I understood that my numbness was a defense mechanism. I had been trying to protect myself from getting hurt again. I knew I had to make a decision, but it wasn't easy. I decided to meet him one last time to talk things through. We met at a park, and I told him everything I had been feeling. I told him about my dreams, the message from his ex, and my own history. He listened quietly, and for the first time, he seemed genuinely remorseful. He admitted that he had made mistakes, and that he had a lot of growing up to do. We both cried, and it was a bittersweet moment. I told him that I needed to focus on myself and that I couldn't be in a relationship with him right now. He understood, and we parted ways on good terms. It was hard, but I felt a sense of relief. In the weeks that followed, I started focusing on my own well-being. I went to therapy to work through my trust issues and started reconnecting with friends I had neglected. I also started journaling to process my emotions and gain clarity. I still think about him sometimes, and I wonder if things could have been different. But I know that I made the right decision for myself. I'm learning to trust my instincts and prioritize my own happiness. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.